live in Philadelphia at the Democratic National Convention in the press room with my guest, Kasparian, host of the Young Turks. Now, yesterday this became the story. We'll get to that in a minute or two, but first I want to get your quick reaction. Donald Trump inviting Russia to hack Hillary Clinton.
This is the first time that we've had a candidate for president encourage hackers from another country to hack into the email server of his political opponent. And so, you can't do that. You can't do that. He's been beyond egregious in this campaign on multiple occasions. He said hideous things about women, hideous things about people with disabilities, hideous things about Muslims and minorities. And now he is essentially encouraging another country to meddle in our election. And it's unbelievable. After it happened, his VP pick, Mike Pence, came out and basically tried to cover it up and brush it under the rug. But how much of this can they really do? He seems like a loose cannon. He seems like he doesn't use any logic before he speaks. And it seems as though he's completely unaware of what is and is not ethical when you're running for president.
And there used to be a schism. His fans don't care. The people who are nominally his colleagues in the party are always rushing to clean up any mess he has to leave behind, and they've got 3 more months of this to look forward to.
Absolutely. Well, what I've noticed is there's definitely some disagreement among party officials, elected politicians, and the electorate. Right now, the electorate is frustrated at our current political system. They're frustrated with establishment politicians. Hillary Clinton fits the mold of an establishment politician. So regardless of what Donald Trump does, people dislike Hillary Clinton so much that they're willing to vote for someone who is a loose cannon, who doesn't have the experience or even the intelligence to be the leader of this country. Now, I don't agree with those individuals. I don't think that Donald Trump is better than Hillary Clinton in any way. I think Hillary Clinton, in comparison to Donald Trump, is much better suited to lead the country. That's not to say that, that's my preference as a political candidate. I was very supportive of Bernie Sanders. But we now have to focus on what we have in front of us. And I would argue that electing Donald Trump would be a disaster for minorities. It would be a disaster when it comes to foreign policy. He's insane, and I'm really worried about where we're headed.
Speaking of schism between establishment and non-establishment, that was, of course, at the center of yesterday's dispute. There was the roll call vote in the hall, and as soon as Secretary Clinton won the roll call vote, about 100, 200 Sanders supporters?
Yeah, I would say in the hundreds. I'm really, really bad at estimating how many, but there was a good number of people who came into the media tent here at the DNC, and there was a mix of reactions among those who supported Bernie Sanders and wanted to be part of this demonstration. Some were doing it to merely protest the fact that Hillary Clinton won the nomination, even given the fact that the DNC manipulated the primaries, and of course that was all leaked in that email. But then there were some that were also accepting the fact that Hillary Clinton is our nominee, but they wanted to hold her feet to the fire. So as a lot of people know, Bernie Sanders did move Hillary Clinton to the left on a number of issues, including free college, higher minimum wage. Initially, she supported $12 an hour. Now she's supporting $15 an hour. And so I spoke to some delegates that said, look, this is not about, being defiant or stubborn and, not accepting the fact she's a nominee. This is about making sure that she knows that we're going to hold her accountable, that we're going to hold her feet to the fire and not allow her to flip-flop on these issues that she now claims she's much more progressive on.
So they're indicating, does it sound like they're indicating a willingness to stay within the party?
Absolutely. I think that they are indicating a willingness to stay in the party. You got to understand, these are individuals who identify as progressives. So they are the most liberal of Democrats, and they feel that Hillary Clinton is not representative of their ideology. And so just because Hillary Clinton is not representative of their ideology does not mean that they're now miraculously Republicans or libertarians. I know that some are saying that they're going to vote for Jill Stein, and for those people, it's nearly impossible to convince them otherwise. They do not believe that Hillary Clinton is trustworthy and deserving of their vote. But there are those who say, I'm a liberal, progressive Democrat, and I want to make sure that my voice is heard. I want to make sure that we stop, our politicians from moving to the right, because we have moved to the right quite a bit as a country, especially when it comes to things like foreign policy.
Earlier in the week, I'm sure you saw the woman, Angie Yeager, with some tape running around, said silence. I spoke to her, and she told me that there are factions developing within what you would call the movement. Do they need an infrastructure? Do they need to coalesce within one party? Do they need to form their own party? What's your read of where they should go?
It's really difficult for me to tell them what they should or shouldn't do. I even hesitate to sit back and tell people, hey, you need to vote for Hillary Clinton, because otherwise we would have Donald Trump, who would be a nightmare. I do believe Donald Trump would be a nightmare. I personally want to ensure that he doesn't get elected into office. But for those who feel disenfranchised by our current political system and genuinely want a revolution, you have to do something revolutionary. And so I completely understand the pain that Bernie Sanders supporters are feeling. I don't know how many factions there are within that movement, but I feel that they should practice their constitutional rights and be as politically active as possible and do what they think is right for them. But one other thing that I want to point out, the movement that kind of became this huge thing because of Bernie Sanders doesn't need to stop because we're not electing the perfect candidate. Electing the right leader is only a small part of the equation. You got to get involved in congressional elections. You have to make sure you are politically active during midterm elections, which historically have very low voter turnout. And you got to fight to get money out of politics, because that really is the root of all evil when it comes to our political system.
Throughout the week, we've seen members of the movement become targets. Seth Meyers criticized them. Certainly, Clinton delegates are criticizing them. That seems like it's sowing a lot more dysfunction at a very critical time. What can the party do to smooth out those gaps?
So are you specifically talking about, some of the negative stuff that's being said about Sanders supporters?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So that's the funny thing, right? Because I feel like Hillary supporters want to make it seem as though, but there is party unity, everything's okay. No, everything is not okay. If you want to convince people who supported Sanders to come to your side, what you need to do is extend an olive branch that also includes concessions when it comes to policy. What I mean by that is, don't just use rhetoric. Take some action to show that you are willing to be a fighter when it comes to minimum wage. Show that you are willing to fight back against TPP. That's one of the biggest issues right now for Sanders supporters. They're against TPP, and Hillary Clinton, in the past has been very much in favor of it. Her rhetoric has changed a little bit, but she also chose Tim Kaine to be her VP, who has also been supportive of TPP. You have to show through your actions that you hear them, that you want them on your side, and that you are a better candidate than Donald Trump. You don't achieve that by throwing in subtle digs here and there during the speeches.
Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
We will see you